Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Before I get today's discussion started, I had to promote the solutions that are available in our community, right? Solutions that were designed to empower us, to advance us. Family, make sure that you head on over to consciousingenuity.org. That is consciousingenuity.org to get your child enrolled in one or all of our youth empowerment programs. Family, we have Conscious Ingenuity. Conscious Ingenuity is an African centered STEAM, that is science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics program that was designed to increase our participation in said fields. All right, and so this is year round. Okay, so make sure that you hit on over here, click the button to learn more about the Conscious Ingenuity program. In partnership with the Uhuru Academy, Conscious Ingenuity co-founded the UACI STEM Camp. This is a virtual STEM camp. This year, the camp starts, I think it's going to start on June the 30th. Okay, and it's going to end on, I believe, July the 11th. Okay, but head on over here, click the learn more button, get your child or get your children in your family, the community enrolled in this virtual UACI STEM camp. We send out Google Chromebooks to the children, STEM kits to the children. They're literally online with us for a half a day for 2 weeks, and they are exposed to African STEM history, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and coding. All right. And this is all free, by the way, family. All these programs are for free. So head on over to consciousingenuity.org. Click the learn more button to learn about the UACI STEM camp. And also, family, make sure that you get your son or your daughter or your nieces, nephews, cousins, godchildren enrolled in the Asafo and the Agoji training camps. These training camps were co-founded by myself and also PLM, Pan-African Liberation Movement. They're based in Baltimore, and they run these camps we run these camps literally every summer. Okay, where we focus on critical thinking skills, character development, life skills, cultural enrichment, and more. And the family, this is free. This year's camp, these cohorts going to start on, oh my goodness, July the 27th. Okay, so this year, the Asafo and the Goji training camps will start on July the 27th and end on August the 2nd. All you have to do is come over here to consciousingenuity.org, learn about these camps, sign your children up. All of these camps are free, family. All of these camps are free. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. All right. And I'm also going to put it on the screen. Okay. I'm also going to put it on the screen. I see my IG family coming in. Peace and love to my IG family. My IG family, I'll drop the link for you also. Okay. Let's make sure that we get our children enrolled in these youth empowerment programs. A lot of times we sit and we complain about the problems in our community. Rarely do we discuss and support the actual solutions in our community. I want to shout out the Maadian family in the building. Peace and love to my Maadian family. I see Sister Lakeisha Dunn is in the building. Miss Betty Jenkins is in the building. Peace and love to you, Sister Lakeisha. Peace and love to your Sister Betty Jenkins. I see our moderator Tiffany's in the building. Peace and love to your Queen. I see our good brother Knowledge Born Allah is in the building. Knowledge Born, I'm going to drop the link, man. I want you to come and hop on this panel. It's a lot to unpack. I know you probably heard about this Piers Morgan interview that's been going viral, and they're talking about it, man, and they're going at it. And I took out I time-stamped it. I actually watched it, and I was appalled at some of the things I heard. But shout out to our brother Mark Lamont Hill. I've had some things to say about him. I have my criticisms of him, but what I will say is that this brother did stand his ground on Piers Morgan, and I appreciate what the brother said. He did stand his ground. So I'm gonna drop the link, brother Knowledge Born. If you have some time, King, hop on this panel. Okay, I'm dropping it in the chat for you to join. But I do see your comment. You said, peace, African warrior scholar, Dr. Oya Ma'at. Honors to this amazing Truth to Power series. You said like and share and comment, subscribe and support, family. So yeah, let's get some more folks in here. I'm getting ready to share this discussion. Let them know that the sister is live. The sister is live and she got a lot to say about this Piers Morgan interview. And I'm gonna play little clips, but with YouTube, you can't play long clips because if you do play long clips, then they flag your content, right? So I think that the clips have to be roughly about under a minute. And so that's what I plan to do. But hold on, let me let folks know that I'm live. Let me let folks know that I'm live. And please, family, make sure that you share. Make sure that you share and let the folks know I'm live so that they could come on in. Hold on. I'm getting ready to do the same thing. Letting folks know that I'm live. Hold on. There we go. All right. That's one platform. And I'm going to head on over here to another platform and let the family know that I'm live. And I do this, family, because I've been told by multiple people, they're just like, look, when you go live, Doc, they say I don't even get the notifications anymore. And then some people even shared with me that YouTube unsubscribed them from my channel. So, I mean, it's hard to get the word out, but we're on their platforms. And so they censor folks, since they're censoring at an all-time high. And so it's imperative to just send out tweets or post and say, hey, I'm live. So hold on one second and let these folks know I'm live. Please pull up. That's the young folks language. Please pull up. All right. And I hope you all do the same. I hope you let the family know that I am live so they could pull up on me. As the young folks would say, they could pull up. They could pull up on me. So anyway, family, there's been a few clips that have gone viral from an interview, a panel interview that was on, panel discussion that took place on Piers Morgan's platform. So you have this guy, Myron Gaines, and I might be butchering his name, Myron Gaines, Myron Baines. You had Myron, you had Mark Lamont Hill, and then you had these other two ladies on the platform. Now, from what I can gather, family, they say that this one right here is a staunch racist, and I mean she's overtly with it. Like she says that on the platform. She said, "Yeah, I use the N word all the time." She said, "I use the N word all the time." And I mean, a lot of the stuff, and I'll play some stuff from her. But yeah, she's a staunch racist. I mean, overtly. This woman right here. She's what I guess people would say was the good or the nice white person, and I know that this panel was strategically put together, right? Because even though they're talking about issues, I mean they know who these people are, right? So I know they strategically put these people together. So you have the staunch racist, then you have the white woman who's not racist. She's not, she claims that she's not with all that stuff. She's neutral. That sort of white person. Then you got Mark Lamont Hill, who some would consider, maybe pro-black or conscious. I mean, a lot of folks, he left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when he made comments about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing on the day that she passed. I think he called her a homophobe, but he said some other stuff about her. And so he, a lot of folks kind of canceled him after that. But anyway, you had Mark Lamont Hill, and then you had this guy, Tariq Nasheed, and them. They call him Musty Myron, but I believe his name is Myron Gaines. And so all of them are on this panel with Piers Morgan talking about race and racism and white victimhood. Now, let me tell you what inspired this conversation, right? See, Lord Abba just said it. Lord Abba, I'm gonna drop the link for you, man. I want you to come on here too. I see Knowledge Born is in the back. I'm getting ready to bring you on, Knowledge Born. I just want to kind of open this thing up. Lord Abba, hop on real quick. But anyway, so they're having this conversation about race, racism, and white victimhood, right? And the impetus for this conversation was that Piers Morgan juxtaposed two campaigns that are happening right now. Okay, two campaigns that are happening right now. The first campaign was the Carmelo Anthony campaign. So remember, Carmelo Anthony is the young man who was at a school track meet, and he fatally stabbed another guy, Metcalf, and he said that he said it's in self-defense, and so anyway, I think they put up like a GoFundMe campaign, but then they GoFundMe took it down, and so they went to this other platform called, and hold on, just want to make sure I get it, Gifts and Go. So they went to another platform called Gifts and Go and raised over $600,000, I believe, for Carmelo Anthony. And so then you had another campaign. It was a woman who called an artistic black child the N word. Okay, she called an artistic black child literally the N word. Okay, and she said it multiple times in the video that we all saw. And so anyway, so and she was able to raise over $600,000. And so Piers Morgan has now juxtaposed both of these campaigns, which was problematic for me. Okay. It was problematic for me because you have one campaign where people are donating to it. I'm talking about the white woman that called the black child the N word, right? You have these people donating, okay, to this woman, basically rewarding her for her bigotry, okay, for her bigotry, for her racial prejudice. And then on the other side, you have people who are donating to Carmelo Anthony, his family, to make sure that they can afford, and they're upper middle class people, but can afford representation, right, for this young boy because they think he was wronged in this situation. He's defending himself. He's charged with murder. And so you got people who are like, wait a minute, I want to. So it didn't make sense, in my opinion, when I first cut this on. And I hear Piers Morgan's juxtaposing these two campaigns, because and Mark Lamont Hill, let me say this. He did a wonderful job saying, hey, man, you can't compare these two campaigns. There's no comparison. And so he did a good job arguing that. But before we jump into that, let me bring you on, Brother Knowledge Born Alive. Peace and love to you, warrior. How are you?
Peace and black power, Dr. Oye. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you loud and clear, warrior.
I am glad to be here with you. I'm telling you, this is one of the most amazing and truth telling platforms we have. So we need to put our arms around, lock arms in solidarity and organic support because
Ashe.
we are in a war of the mind for the minds and hearts of African people all over the planet. And we are being inundated with improper propaganda campaigns. So there
Yes.
is nothing like coming to a place where we get the truth that we deserve
Ashe.
and the truth that we need. You understand? These two are not mutually exclusive of one another because sometimes we need some straightening, a check up from the neck up because we might think we on this path and then we start veering off left, veering off right. So it's wonderful to have a platform where we can get the truth and we can
Ashe.
use that truth to empower and to be powerful. So thank you.
Ashe. And I appreciate you jumping on. I know you like, hold up, I just came in to show some love, and now she just throwing me on the panel. But I
I'm here.
I know that Baba Anthony T. Browder, he always says nothing happens by chance in a
Right.
universe ruled by divine law and order. So I do appreciate you and all the work that you've done. I love how I appreciate your unwavering support. You came right on, I guess you got the notification, boom, you pulled up on me. And I'm like, there go Knowledge Born Alive. Come on, come and get in this panel with me. But what were your thoughts? And let's start here. And I'm not saying, I don't know if you saw the interview or not, but just the mere fact that you have people juxtaposing these two campaigns, right? So you
Right.
have the campaign of Carmelo Anthony. Then you had the campaign of this other woman. Someone dropped her name in the chat for me. I forgot the name of the other woman. But you had this woman who called this black child, the N word, and you got people raising, 600. Like they was like literally, like Piers Morgan said, she's on her way to becoming a millionaire and being
Right.
rewarded for using a racially charged epithet, right? A racially charged word. She's being
Mhm.
rewarded for that. So on one hand, somebody's being rewarded for their prejudice, their racial prejudice, their bigotry. On the other end, you have people saying, well, wait a minute, I think this black child, they're going to do him dirty. Let me step up and try to save this black child. I'm talking about Carmelo
Right.
Anthony. Let me
Right.
try to help, the family. And so, how do you feel about this? Do you think they should have even juxtaposed or compared these two campaigns?
Well, I think that's a very excellent question, Dr. Omaya. What we're looking at is outside versus inside.
Mm,
So if we draw up cultural analysis, Dr. Ramani said a people's culture is their immune system.
mm,
So when she described Urugu to us, she went in a classical academic critique of European thought, ideology, and behavior. So she described them in the most comprehensive manner ever. It doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter where their quote unquote ancestry is. They know how to get in the front of the line and toe the line with their people, whether they openly agree with them or monetarily, from a financial standpoint, they show their allegiance. Either way it
mm.
goes,
Either
right?
way it
So
goes.
no matter what atrocity befalls them, or no matter what light they're seen in, they will not make public statements against their own people.
Mm-hmm,
Steve Copley, and peace and blessings be upon him, said, we're the only group of people that will fight against our military. Black people in America in particular.
mm,
We will fight against those who stand to be the vanguard from a militaristic perspective. We will condemn them. We will be subversive with them. We will talk against them. We will move against them, and we will defund them. But then say we need protection. You understand?
mm-hmm,
So from a social, spiritual perspective or a psycho-spiritual perspective, these folks know how to fall in line and then encircle.
mm,
So when you look at these two instances, these are provoked acts of war. Now, what the lady saying the N word to the young black autistic child, what's the difference between that lady and the music that he listens to, the television shows that he watches, the movies that he watches, and even now to some books that he's reading? They're inundating his consciousness with derogatory terms. We got the YN movement out here. You
mm-hmm,
understand? So this
mm-hmm,
young black autistic child who is neurodivergent somewhere on the spectrum, right? Uh, he is typecast in the same category that we have with our young people. And then there's an outcry externally, quote unquote, but not an outcry internally. We are leading our children. Dr. Oymar, you always talked about this for years, came at you for years with this, like, we don't really love our children.
mm.
So the public outcry, they've been calling us N words ever since we got here, even before we got here. And now we're, reverting to the same thing. And that subsect of the society that are the financiers for the entertainment industry, a large portion of it is purporting that to come out of our mouths. So it's interesting to draw this analysis on one side, and then on the other side, uh, this young black male who was operating in self-defense after countless, you know, situations of being targeted and bullied. Now, this is, something interesting where we seeing this dynamic kind of come together. It's like, oh, we're shutting this down because they did the same thing with the brother whose son was, unalive. And then they did the same thing to his fundraising capabilities, and they're targeting his family. His wife is receiving, threats against her life and against her family. So again, all of these scripts are working, kind of together, and it's in the public eye, so to speak, from the media sort of standpoint, weaponizing. So to draw these sorts of spaces of attention to these different things.
Mm-mm.
It's interesting to see these parallels.
Mm-mm-mm. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Not to cut your wisdom. Lord Abba said, "How?" Like he said, "How is he putting it on us?" He said, "Stick to the racist devil." So he said, "What? Well, like, why did you mention black people, basically defunding and not supporting their military? What was your thought process, Knowledge Born?" And peace
I'm
to Lord
showing.
Abba. I see he just
Yeah,
joined the panel in the back. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. Peace out, brother Lord Abba. I'm not removing accountability or responsibility from the devil, but the devil does what the devil does. I'm saying how we see ourselves is equally important. Our space of self actualization. So when you present this on one end and don't present it on the other end, it's not working in the same manner. So whatever's supposed to happen to that devil, that's supposed to happen. That ain't nothing to talk about. That's something to do. But the other space of repair, how much of these generations that we have gone through in regards to this word in particular, and Dr. Mott, you know how staunchly I am opposed to this movement, to this relegation of our brothers, our sisters, our women, our children, even our ancestors. You understand? So
Mm-hmm.
this space right here in regards to that, my thought process was just connecting these two worlds together in regards to the media type of assault that is happening and how this is getting painted with a broad brush, but we're not looking at both ends.
Okay. Okay. Lord Abba, peace and love to you, brother.
Peace to my sister, Dr. My Eye. What's going on, sis?
Hey, everything. What's going on with you, brother?
I don't like to say I'm maintaining. I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good,
I'm
good,
definitely doing great.
good, good,
Shout out
good.
to the brother as well. Shout out to the brother as well.
So
Um, um
let me ask
Peace,
you
yeah, I
this.
was
Lord
going
have.
to
Let
peace,
me ask
peace.
you let me ask you this quick question, Lord Abba. Do you even think that they should have juxtaposed both of those campaigns? And I want to say the woman's name was Shiloh Hendricks. So that was the woman. She called a black child the N word, the artistic black child the N word, raised over $600,000. Carmelo Anthony, his campaign, raised over about 600,000. So now they're trying to juxtapose the two. Mark Lamar Hill, he was like, "Nah, y'all can't. You can't compare this. One, this woman's being rewarded for racism. Two, the other one, this is people trying to ensure that this black child has a fair shot at justice. And it's sad to say that, like, has a fair shot at justice, right? It sounds crazy even just saying that. But what are your thoughts on the fact that on this panel discussion, they're juxtaposing these two situations?
Yes, yes. I'm definitely familiar with the discussion, seeing the clips, seeing the discussions around them. The this is white supremacy 101, right? White supremacy. It, the myth of whiteness is that it is purity. This is why nobody understood Noble Drew Ali's lessons. They just derided them. Where he
Mm,
said, what title does Satan give himself? Like, this is a key question. What title does Satan give himself? Answer, God. The very next question and answer is, can you define white? White means purity, purity means God, and God means the ruler of the land. So those two questions go together. And people didn't understand that because they looked at it solely through a racial lens and they thought that he was trying to big these people up. No, he's telling you that these pale skinned Europeans, whom he never referred to as white, were in fact the devil. And so what they do is they take all of their bad attributes, which is damn near every evil and debaucherous thing that can be seen on this planet, and they try to put those things on us. And so when something happens with the Carmelo Anthony trying to defend himself, it's he's black need because I'm on Twitter. So this is where the online race war is really happening at.
yeah, yeah,
These
I'm
blacks
hearing. Yeah.
hmm These blacks need to be exterminated and all of this crazy nonsense, right? And we have to protect our own. There's no self defense. Then there was another white boy in Texas that stabbed up this Mexican kid. Now, this white boy was going to fight this Mexican kid one on one. He brought a knife, stabbed the Mexican kid up. They lowered his bed. There was no outcry about white supremacy at all because this is what they do. So when you see a situation with Shiloh Hendricks calling that little child the N word, which I don't use that word, it's a horrible, horrible word to me.
Yes.
But when you see her calling, and you see white supremacists saying, we must help, we must come to the aid of this damsel in distress because blacks need to be exterminated from the children to all the way up to the adults. We want to, like, this is the rhetoric that's going on
Oh, I
online. I've
believe
seen
it. I believe it.
mhm. This. I've seen some of the first tweets that said we must protect our own, even if it means one of our own calling a little black kid by the N word. And if the mother was there and would have beat the brakes off of her, the same white supremacists would have been online talking
Crying,
about.
crying.
That's right. Oh, the blacks, they're always kicking our ass. Yeah, because y'all weak and fragile and mediocre. You can't naturally fight. That's why you always mobbed up against us over the generations when you had that like one way power. But it's not that way anymore. When we will beat, let me try not to curse on your platform, but we will
I
beat
mean,
you up.
but Lord
Hmm.
Abba, we been doing that anyway. You know, like people kill me when they don't think we've been beating the brakes off of them for
Well,
years.
that's
I mean,
true.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
is true.
You know, you got a lot of people that think now black people are fighting back. Black people have always
That's
fought
right.
back. You know,
That's right.
we fought on the coast. And shout out
That's
to
right.
Dr. Ife Williams. That brilliant sister has a PhD in Afroecology. She has a tool where she's researched over 500 rebellions on the coast of Africa, in the in the ocean, like up literally in the in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Caribbean, on the coast of North America, and I'm talking about by the Florida area, that whole. So she researched a whole bunch of rebellions, and she showed that we've been fighting. I mean, we've been fighting shit, land, air, and sea. We've been fighting literally since we've been here. So I just don't want people to think, when they hear you, like, oh, we just now getting with them. We always got with them. But yeah, so I think that it was unfair that they juxtaposed it. But look, let me go to my first timestamp where this woman right here actually had the audacity to say that white people were under attack, right? And that to me, Lord Abba, proves what you were just saying. And let me make sure that I hit the daggone. Yeah, there it is, man. I
Shit
just wanted to make
audio.
sure that I hit the daggone. I couldn't, it just
Yeah.
proves what you were saying. She said we are under attack, but you said that's what they're talking like on in these Twitter spaces. So here we go. She says we're under attack. Here we go. Oops.
But if you use the N word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you? Are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying,
well, as they should. I mean, she verbally assaulted a child,
That's right.
a minor. So they should. So here we go.
Carmelo Anthony. It doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with?
Oh, hold on. I went too far. I meant to go here where she says white people are under attack. I went too far. Here we go. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Yes, according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you? Are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping.
You might have to go back some more, sis.
Yeah, that's what I was sitting over here thinking. Hold on. Let me go here. Because I went to Mark Lamont's, I went to Hill's. Yeah, I went to his, I pulled up his video, but here it is. Let me go.
And while you're doing that,
Yeah.
that dude Myron Gaines' real name is like Amru something. He's from, if I'm not mistaken, the Sudan.
Mhm.
Like, and he's one of those. You've heard our conversations. I've been on your platform speaking about it. I've had debates about it on your platform as well, where we're talking about delineation. And in doing so, what happened was we started to realize that there were a lot of people from the continent that really disliked us.
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And they just,
Absolutely.
and he's one of them. He
Oh yeah.
caters to these devils, and he's trying to, build up his platform off of being anti us.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's definitely anti us. But yeah, here you go. I have the clip, and I agree with you 1,000%, Lord Abel. But here we go.
Here's the thing: white people have been under attack for years.
Did you hear what she just said? Hold
Yep.
on.
Yep.
Let me take it back. She said, hold on. I couldn't believe that she
She
parted.
got her uniform on, and she proudly said, "Oh, the ADL has me labeled as this, that. Oh, I'll embrace that if I have to. There's
She
no,
sure
I'm
did.
I'm back. I'm backpedaling. No, she's doubling down. She's like, and what? Who
True.
cares? You understand? Like, that kind of thing. Because I think you spoke about it before, Dr. Mott, like in detail in regards to the impact of the white woman. Like, we always look at the white man, and then Lord Abbott just talked about this damsel in distress. There's no space where you thinking one over the other one, like one was kinder to you, or more gentle, and the research shows the opposite, the more brutal. You see what I'm saying? So she's being as visceral as she can within the confines of this space, and then she can cry in 2 seconds after that, and they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, leave her alone." You understand what I'm saying? So they know how
absolutely.
they know how to play that game.
No, absolutely. And I was showing the book, They Were Her Property, by it says They Were Her Property, White Women as Slave Owners in the American South, by Dr. Stephanie Joan Rogers. And in that book, that's what she said. That's what she said. And we analyzed it, we studied it. And yeah, they were just as, oh Lord Abbott, let me mute you, man. Come on. I know you was at a game.
Oh, I thought I hit mute. My bad. I'm outside getting my run in. I'm actually walking right now. My bad, sis. I thought I muted you.
No problem. But here we go.
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as Black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job.
Did you hear that? So I just want to make sure we're hearing a family. She said white people have been under attack for years. She said Black people and people of color talk about systematic or systemic racism. She said they're saying they're victims of it, but she said it's just the opposite. She said we get preferential treatment when it comes to jobs. Let's keep going.
When it comes to getting into colleges.
When it comes to getting into colleges, even though there was a stat that just recently came out and said Black men are not in colleges. But anyway, here we go.
White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to.
Black people doing BLM didn't attack any white people. That's why when I was listening to this interview, Brother Knowledge Boy, I had to laugh. When have Black people actually attacked? I'm talking about unprovoked, just attack. And I'm talking about unprovoked. Nothing happened. We just went and attacked white folks. That's not what we do. We just don't go out here and attack white people. And I'm saying unprovoked. That's not really the nature or the ethos of our people, the spirit or the character of us. We just don't go out and attack white folks. That never happened. And then she's saying that we get preferential treatment. No, we don't get preferential treatment. And I'm pretty sure she'll probably say affirmative action, which actually benefited white women. I'm pretty sure she'll say DEI, which actually benefited white people, LGBT people, veterans, and disabled folks. We were kind of like last in line. In fact, there was a stat that came out that said only 8% of the workforce jobs were given to Black people under DEI. Most of the jobs went to whites, LGBTQ people, veterans, and disabled people. We were like last in line to get anything from DEI, contrary to what they say, right? They make Black people the poster children of affirmative action and DEI, even though white women actually should be the poster children of these programs. So I'm trying to understand when she's talking about preferential treatment on the jobs, because it was actually white women who got preferential treatment on these jobs. And then she's saying that and another thing I want to say, in this book, They Were Her Property. Let me tell you the character of Black folks. After we were legally emancipated, we emancipated ourselves years ago, but legally, when we were emancipated, and this was around the time of the ending of the Civil War, Dr. Jones Rogers in her book tells us that, there were some white folks, white plantation owners who lost everything, right? The mistresses are still down there. They're destitute. They lost everything. Their husbands and sons and uncles and brothers and cousins got killed or injured in the war. So they were literally destitute. And you had some Black people that were like, well, I ain't giving you nothing. But then there were some Black people, that even though they know they were mistreated by these people, they still looked out for them. I'm telling you. Now, I wouldn't have been that type of black person. I don't have it in me. Maybe my mother is. I'm pretty sure my mother is, and there's no shot at her. But my mother's a Christian woman. She probably would have looked out. I wouldn't have looked out. But there were some black folks that, despite how they were treated, they still looked out for these white folks. I'm just using this as an example to show you the character, the spirit of black folks. So let's keep on listening to her. Hold on.
Sit back and watch people burn down our cities.
And I just want to say again, Black Lives Matter was not about attacking white people. It wasn't about attacking white people. It was trying to get the nation to understand that we matter, that we should be treated as human beings. That's what that whole movement. And I'm not talking about the one that they hijacked and took. I'm talking about the grassroots Black Lives Matter movement was about justice, right? Justice for black folks, and that's what the whole thing was about. But she's saying that we attack black folks and burnt down cities. And I mean, a bunch of, she don't even know what she's talking about. Here we go.
Do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with
do you hear this? Anti-white hatred has been ingrained in this society. Yes. Brother Knowledge Born, what's your thoughts? I know I've been rambling. What's your thoughts?
Look, I love every bit of this commentary right here, okay? This uniform, I'm telling you, when you put this uniform on, it ain't no Klan robe, it ain't none of that. Like, this is something that's supposed to be sensible. This is the part of Get Out, the film, that everybody glossed over. They was looking at the man, they was looking at the brother, they was looking at the father. This is the one that was out on the mission. Like, it was her sole mission in life to go find black men and women and lure them into this kind of trap for their minds and their beings to be taken over. It was like this is what she's saying. Like, she got a straight face. She's not timid about anything that she's saying. Whatever she's saying, she believes every single word of it. Every single word of it. And she can't be dissuaded. You can't, bring her facts and try to deal with her from a logical space. You can't deal with her from an emotional space. You can't deal with her with no other level other than to have her listen to herself. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is what you said. Oh, I didn't mean it like that. Blah blah blah. She's pushing away from all of these other narratives. So she has to be painted as a racist. If she has to be painted as a Nazi or whatever these labels that they ascribe to her, like they need a reason to be other than themselves. They just themselves. You see what I'm saying? They woke up. Like, that's what happened. This is who they are every day. So the more we listen to her talk, the more she begins to devolve and unravel what she called rhetoric on the other side as her own rhetoric. You see what I'm saying? Her own dogma. Like that. And it's the world against her. You remember that movie, Dr. Ma'at, what was it? John Singleton movie that was on the college campus, Higher Learning. You remember Higher Learning?
Yeah, I remember Higher Learning. Mm-hmm.
Right. So Malik and Remy, they went to college, and by halfway through the semester, both of them were radicalized. I think it came out 30 years ago now. They're both radicalized, right? Like, Remy was a misfit, right? And by the time he had got with these quote-unquote white supremacists, he became an extremist.
He sure did.
But Malik was green. He had the name like Malik, right? And he's green. He's coming to the campus and blah, blah, blah. And, he see the brothers, and then, next thing, they show him like he's some sort of extremist, right? So in college is where most of the young people go to experiment and sort of find themselves. You understand what I'm saying? So this is a picture that's being painted. So these are the kinds of minds that are out here, and she's in front of that camera. That camera's empowering her further to be able to have this sort of reach, and she's leeching off and feeding off of the disdain. You understand what I'm saying? But there are millions of people that are watching that are shaking their head north south, like,
and that's the mindset, right? Like, She's over here talking about we live in an anti-white society and it's systemic.
Right.
No, we actually live in an anti-black society, right? And it's systemic. But it seems, she would be one of those people that would be crying reverse racism, like as
And
if
she's
we
got
even
blonde hair. If she had black hair, nobody would pay attention to her. She's got
but as
blonde
if,
hair,
but
so
as
it's
if hold,
there.
hold on, brother. Now I was born, but as if we had the power to be racist. That's what I wanted to say, and that's what I wanted to conclude. But let's keep going.
White unity. We don't see white unity on
Hang
our
on,
side.
hang on. Okay, but hang on.
All right, so now she's talking about white unity and white power to fight back, which was completely bananas to me. So another thing that stuck out to me was when she started talking about the N-word, right? Yeah, so she's talking about the N-word, and that's at 12:30. And Piers Morgan's flat out says, do you use the N-word? And she's like, yes, and he was like, well, in what context? And she was like, whenever I feel like saying it, I use the N-word. And so I just feel like, and I'll play this. Let me play it, and then I'll talk about how I feel. Let's play the clip.
Free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
Mhm. I do quite frequently.
I do.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Lamont said, check.
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way,
so freedom of speech in her mind is, I can use racially charged epithets, right? Or racially charged words, even though they may be harmful to others. I can use them, and that's my right. That is freedom of speech. But, Piers Morgan says, well, that's your right. But he said, but you're still going to be held accountable, right? Like, that's your right. You can say these things, but then you also had to understand that even though it's your right to say these things, that you can still be held accountable. But here we go.
Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word?
People.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so. I don't really care. Why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying.
And so they're at a point where now they are emboldened, right, to just say these things. They've always said it behind closed doors, whisper it, but now they feel emboldened. I've even seen Brother Knowledge Born on social media, a surge of videos of white folks calling black people the N-word in supermarkets, gas stations, Walmarts, but shout out to those brothers and sisters, because these brothers and sisters are fighting back. These brothers and sisters not sitting there letting the white folks just call them an N-word. I didn't see two sisters stomp out. Shout out to my aunt Segment, man, who sent me the video. The sisters saw her sitting outside after she called them all kinds of N-words in the supermarket.
Yeah.
They waited for her tail to get outside, and those sisters stomped her out, for saying it. But Brother Knowledge Born, let me say this, and I'll land my plane. I'm gonna need black folks to stop saying it to each other and about each other, right? I'm gonna need us to stop supporting music where we're using that word. And you get what I'm saying? Because we sit here and then we're hypocrites, right? It's like I could say the N-word, because I'm black, but you can't say it. Or, if you're rapping a song and it's cool to sing it, but then it's like, wait a minute, nah. Nobody should be using that word.
Agreed.
Whether you're black, you're white, you're yellow, blue, purple, brown, red, no one should be using that word. And so I think that we need to also be not only hold them accountable, when they say the N word, but hold ourselves accountable when we say it, right? When we say it to each other or about each other, or even in the music that we listen to. Lord Abel, Brother Knowledge Born.
No,
Yeah, I just want to
definitely. Yeah, real quick. I definitely agree with you, sis. I don't use the word at all. Grown, you know, like tired of it. And because I realized when I was back in the Morris movement just how abhorrent it was when I started doing my research on the evolution of the word black, this German word, and its roots on why they call us that from, Niger and, the Portuguese, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when it comes to what she's saying right now about white people pretty much being oppressed, why she mentioned the ADL, et cetera, et cetera. See, she knew that Piers Morgan was going to do his research on her. And so she tried to beat him to the punch. If you understand Piers Morgan's platform, he's beholden to Israel. So if you ever watch any of his content, which I do, you'll know that if you try to go up there arguing against what Israel is doing with its pogrom in the Middle East, then he's going to be on the side of the people that's arguing against those that's arguing against Israel. And so she knew, because it's not that she's just saying the N word, she's also using Jewish racial epithets as well. So this is why Piers Morgan feels comfortable in really just attacking her. This thing has several different layers to it. And I just wanted to inform the audience of why we see Piers Morgan going at her. He knows that these people go at the Jews as well. They've come into our spaces on Twitter, X, trying to convince us that the Anglos and other whites are not the problem, but that it's the Jews. And every single time I've ran them down, and they've never come into our spaces anymore with that nonsense. So they have two fronts that they're fighting right now, but we are the primary targets. When we've always been the primary targets.
Right. But hold on. Here's some more. Oh, here's some more. Because then she goes on and say that this is our country. Here we go.
Actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
And that's the mentality that they have. Shout out to Dr. Badalore, Jacqueline Badalore. She has a book called Birth of a White Nation. They honestly feel that way. She really feels that this is their nation, right? So that I had to stop it right there. She said, this is our country, right? And hold on, she's gonna say, because I'm white. Here we go.
Country.
Because I'm white and
this is her country because she white and she said so.
Well, there are no black people in American history. Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading you, your
She said yes.
White country. Is that your position?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
The girl on the far right, you see her blink. She blinked like, what the hell? Like, she blinked like, what the hell?
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist. And at some point, we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
I don't disagree, Mark. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time.
So anyway, so this woman said, this is our country. She said, because I'm white. Read this book, Birth of a White Nation, and it will help you understand where she got her psychology from. Okay, I'm white and this is my country. So he said, what are you saying? Because I mean, black folks, they were, they were kind of brought over here. And the other girl blinking her eyes. And so I always tell people, Brother Knowledge Born and Lord Abba, that there's a such thing as, we keep saying that black people are miseducated, and we are miseducated. But I often tell people white folks are just as miseducated as we are, if not more. Just like they say, there's a lot of us that are ignorant. White ignorance is really a thing. I know we talk about white fragility and white ignorance is really, really, it's huge. I think knowledgeable. I think I should write a damn book called White Ignorance, because it's a phenomenon that a lot of people don't talk about. She really think that this is her country. No, You stole this land. You're on stolen land from you stole this land literally from the indigenous people, the indigenous folks, the folks that were already here. You stole it. You wiped them out. I believe they said it was over 100 million, Native Americans here. And I don't even like calling them Native Americans. I like calling them just indigenous people. It was over 100 million there. But by the time they came over here, man, with diseases and all kinds of stuff, it went from the population went from 100 million to 10 million people. Okay. Then you imported African people, right? You imported African people to come over here and build this country. She doesn't even know her history knowledge, born. The woman don't. So you sitting on a panel and presenting yourself as a damn expert, and you don't even know American history. You talking about a country, you said it's your country, and you're not even clear on the history. You don't even know you don't even know your American history. If this your country, you don't even know the history. And so I just thought the whole conversation was banana. And Mark Lamar, you could tell he was getting irritated. He's like, this is dumb. It is. The conversation. He realized that he was talking to a fool after a while. Just a purity fool. I land my plane, brother Knowledge Born. What's your thoughts?
See the contrast when we look at American history and we look at our own black towns and movements. These were the crocodile tears that led to the destruction. Tulsa. This is the picture of the lady from Tulsa in the elevator. This is the lies that destroyed Rosewood. You see what I'm saying? Like, so they're just on here doing whatever. See, as staunch as his position might be, Mark Lamar Hill I'm talking about, he wasn't as staunch in his repudiation of white people when he was talking to Captain Tazariak. But on here, he's doing this little dance like he's just outraged and flabbergasted. He was justifying their existence and their devilishment versus now where he looks like he's supposed to be a defender. So this double consciousness is glitching over here. You understand what I'm saying? So he's code switching. He's their savior, no different than this other guy that Lord Abba named. Both of them have their cape and knight in shining armor type of situation for this damsel psychology. But it just sounds so visceral coming out of her mouth at this point that he seems as if he's vehemently opposed, and he's not. So this is all, a lot of this theater that's going on. So a lot of this stuff that's happening, and I keep watching this one on the end for her. I think she finally said one thing, but she's not going to outright publicly repudiate or go against her own. You see what I'm saying? So she might have said something real quiet, but just looking at this body language, she's very uncomfortable about what she's hearing because she's just hoping, like, don't come to me next. You understand what I'm saying?
Don't say nothing to me.
Yeah. So yeah, this is true, theater with these things, and they have these things all together. Because even he alluded to Mark Hill was like, you probably didn't know she was going to come, this way, but she was going to come with something, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So even that, and then the last thing I'll say is, in reference to what Lord Abba said about, Piers Morgan, he's white. There's no difference between him, this one, or that one. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's no difference. So even though he's like, oh, I can call you despicable, blah, blah, blah. I could do this whole situation right here to where it looks like I'm against you as well. And it's all a game. All of them are playing a game right here. So it's very clear in regards to that. We're looking for somebody to see our plight, somebody to have some type of empathy or sympathy for our cause and all of these things. And nobody's going to give you any of that. That helping hand you're looking for is at the end of your arm. You see what I'm saying? So literally this psychological mind game that's being played via this content as this, because it's an interview, but it's content. You see what I'm saying? You create content, Dr. Mott, but you also do investigative journalism. Like, this is supposed to be investigative journalism, but it's content. It's a show.
It's a show.
It's a show. They're doing a show. Like, they're putting on a show.
Well, check this out.
Ain't no different than Stephen A. Smith or the rest of those guys that's out there, and they acting like they so dead set on these points and all kinds of stuff. So
No, I'm with
it's
you.
the
No,
game.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Look, the game is getting ready to get more intensified, right? It's getting ready to get more intensified because then now Myron at the 16 minutes he wants to jump in, and this is what he says.
Any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even
Here's the
you
thing.
can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree.
You heard what he said? Everybody.
Immediately.
He said everybody. Everybody.
Yes.
Here we go.
I'm sure not.
Depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say.
Now let's stop right here. Let's unpack this whole notion that everyone is racist. There's using when they say racist or people are racist or they mention racism, they're talking about bigotry. Okay. They're talking about bigotry and prejudice. And yes, when you look up racism, it does say prejudice. And we're going to read the definitions, Brother Knowledge Born. Okay. So we keep hearing them throw around racist. I want to start with bigotry. It says bigotry is obstinate or unreasonable attachment to a belief, opinion, or faction, in particular prejudice against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group. Okay. And so bigotry, if you look at the synonyms for bigotry down the bottom, you see prejudice, you see bias. Okay. And you also see racism, right? So they're saying that all of this stuff is synonymous, right? Like bigotry, bias, racism, and prejudice, right? So you hear them use these words interchangeably. But our ancestors, and I'm thinking about our ancestors and our scholars. First of all, I want to salute Dr. Amos Wilson. I keep telling everybody to get his book, Blueprint for Black Power. Please get his book, Blueprint for Black Power, family. Okay. And in this book, Dr. Amos Wilson, he defines racism in a way that goes beyond individual prejudice or hatred, right? So when we were looking at these definitions of what's bigotry, what's prejudice, what's racism, they're all synonymous, right? But Dr. Amos Wilson in his book says, racism goes beyond individual prejudice or hatred, okay? And he's in his definition, he emphasizes that power and systemic control. Let me say that again. In his definition of racism, he emphasizes power and systemic control. So he informs us that racism is not about your attitude, your personal animosity. He said it's fundamentally about power. Okay. It's fundamentally about power. It is the systemic use of institutional, economic, political, and cultural power by one racial group to dominate and control another group, especially in ways that maintain the dominance of the oppressing group and the subjugation of the oppressed group. That's what Dr. Amos Wilson is telling us in Blueprint for Black Power. Okay? That's what he's telling us. So he's telling us, look, racism is a structural relationship. Okay? It's a structural relationship. And he says that he says it's a structural relationship and it's a power dynamic. Okay? So it's a structural and institutional relationship, not an interpersonal one. Okay? And that there's some sort of power dynamic is going on. He tells us in this book that it serves the purpose of maintaining white supremacy, which is a global system. And he says it persists not because of ignorance or misunderstanding, but because it is because it is profitable, and functional for the dominant group. And so he says that the antidote for racism is Black power. So Black power is a reaction, right? Or an antidote or a cure to white power. It's a cure so that we won't be victimized by white folks. That's what Dr. Amos Wilson is saying, okay, in this book. All right. And now I want to shout out Dr. Claude Anderson. Okay. And let me play his clip. Dr. Claude Anderson, this is his definition of racism. Okay. Dr. Claude Anderson defined racism in his book Powernomics. I actually have Powernomics behind me on my bookshelf. He says that racism is strictly functional and it's a power-based term. Okay. So let me grab the book really quickly, Brother Knowledge Born, because I want to read his definition. Hold on. Where's my Powernomics book? Oh, okay. All right. Hold on. I'll try to look on my shelf. It wasn't there, so I'm getting ready to Google it real quick because I don't want to mess him up, but I am going to play the clip of him talking about it. Hold on. Let me Google this really quickly. Okay, so right here, it says, Dr. Claude Anderson, particularly in his book, Powernomics, the national plan to empower Black Americans defines racism in strictly functional and power-based terms. I already said that part. It says his concise and widely cited definition is that racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of resources. So he emphasizes that racism is group-based, not individual. So let's pause right here, Brother Knowledge Born. It's not about a white person calling you the N-word. He's a racist. No, that white person, I would say, is being a bigot. That white person is biased. That white person is prejudiced. That white person is harsh. But do I define that as racism? Well, if you're saying that racism is synonymous with prejudice and bigotry, then yeah. But with our scholars, they had us look a little deeper than that, Brother Knowledge Born, right? And so Dr. Claude Anderson said that it's a competitive relationship. Okay. Dr. Amos Wilson said it's a structural relationship that involves power dynamics. Dr. Claude Anderson said it's a competitive relationship and that is group-based, not individual, and that it's about power and resources, not feelings, attitudes, or personal prejudice. He also said that the dominant group uses racism to maintain control over resources, opportunities, wealth, and institutions. But hold on, Brother Knowledge Born. I want to play his words.
I go around the world and I ask blacks in various countries. I said, two people stand up any place in the room. I'll give you $1,000 if you can tell me what racism is. I've never ever had one that knew what racism was. Never had one. I said, what is racism? He said, well, it's bigotry, it's hatred, it's not getting along with people, it's bias, it's discrimination. All that wrong. Racism has nothing to do with getting along with people and liking people. Racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of resources, wealth, and power. That's what racism is. Racism never existed on the earth until the 1500s, when all of a sudden 9 European nations decided to use black labor, black bodies, and black wealth out of Africa to get in a race. After Columbus had discovered America, supposedly, in quotes, in 1495, all of a sudden they got a rush to redevelop the Western world. So all these countries were in a race, a contest, competing to see who can develop North America, Central America, and Latin America. It was a race. It was a race, and everybody was in the race but black folk. Black folk never participated in the race. You were the prize, the boot, the loot that they used to empower themselves. See, they were buying blacks in Africa on a typical for $15 to $20 a piece. And they established a thing called a profit margin, 15% return on investment, 1,500% return. So they were selling for $400 and $500. They got into the United States and to other countries. And that's why the whole banking system started off of slavery in Portugal. Again, and the whole system of capitalism started off of black slavery. Before that was mercantilism. The whole concept that you all are playing in with promotions and what's called marketing development came out of black slavery. And it was designed not for you to profit, but for others to profit. Everybody's was profiting initially except you, and it has not changed. And so when I look at your program, and it says that you are marketing developers. Marketing developers. I would say marketing means going into any environment, a site, a geographical area, and promoting a product or a service or a good to get an equal value for it. You're marketing. But it also stipulates in there that to be a marketer, you must have a market. So I ask black folk, where are your markets? Where are your markets? Where is the black market? And they said, well, Dr. Ellis, we got a black market. Where is it? They said, well, it's all over the United States. And that's how much you get. We got a $650 billion black market. And that's a lot of money. Wrong, it's not. It is not a lot of money. It's only a lot of money when it's aggregated. Scattered through the integration process, your money is nothing. It is chump change. Because we don't plan to have power. That's why we continue to integrate and scatter our money. And then brag about how much money we got. And then we come up with magazines and research to tell everybody where to go get our money and how to get it. Nobody else is that foolish but us. You got to have a license to be that stupid to do those kind of games. You don't tell people how to come into your market and how to sell to your people and take your money and your economy out. That's called a capital drain. When I was assistant secretary in commerce, we would I took trade missions around the world. Nobody would allow that to happen in their country. We would not let the Japanese come over here and do dumpings, dump their automobiles in Norfolk and in Jacksonville, Florida. That's called dumping, which means you come over and take the wealth out of our nation and doesn't take anything back to Japan. When they come over and dump their steel from Korea, we had a balance of trade policy, so you can't do this. Everybody has a balance of trade policy except black folk. We'll let anybody come in and do anything to us because we haven't changed since slavery. We still don't understand the process. Every day, Burger Kings and McDonald's trucks will come into a black neighborhood and dump hamburgers and Coca-Cola and take nothing out. That's a balance of trade deficit. This country right now is suffering from a balanced trade because we've allowed it to happen since Bush has been in office. And that's why you cannot profit in the society, because you got a capital drain. Nobody's ever taught black folk how to practice group economics. Your money is supposed to stay in your own country or in your own community and with your own hands and your own people and bounce at least 8 to 12 times.
So, Brother Knowledge, what are your thoughts on that? You know, I just wanted to. I kept hearing Paris Morgan and Myron keep saying, you know, the N word. You're racist. You know, oh, somebody's prejudiced. You're bi. You know, no, like yes, they're lumping racism in. You know, with being, you know, bias and prejudice or being a bigot. And our scholars, you know, such as Dr. Amos Wilson and Dr. Claude Anderson, they said, nah. Racism is deeper than just being, you know, prejudice or being biased. I remember the ancestors used to say that racism was prejudice plus power. You know, Dr. Joy DeGury said it's prejudice plus power. You know, I can actually now, with my prejudice, now I have the power to actually change or impact your life in some way because of my prejudice. And that's what makes it racism. But go ahead, Brother Knowledge Boy, you have the floor.
I think that was an excellent summation of what it means in part. So if you look at the N-word has a economic delineation or categorization, but it also has a militaristic categorization. If I use a racial epithet to describe you, I'm dehumanizing you from a combat perspective. So if I use a term like Haji to describe everybody from the Middle East, you don't see people. You see things that you can exterminate. So all of these terms are terms that are tied to commercial, but also militaristic means to have in the mind of the soldier or the military fighting force that's going into these places. You don't want them to look at people as human. Because if I see you as human, 8 times out of 10, when it comes time to do what I need to do, I'm not going to be able to do it because I've humanized you. So even when we use the term like the Karens and the Beckys and all of that stuff, you're still humanized. So I did a discussion about the psychological detriment of humanizing your enemy. So they use this N-word term because it's a blanket term. So this can be applied to any black person anywhere on the planet at any time. So on site, you see N-word, threat, extermination. And somebody's going to say he deserved it, she deserved it. You understand what I'm saying? So the militaristic thing, it goes. You know, years ago, I talked about the science of going to the gun range. The silhouettes on your targets are black. So automatically, if you were going to this range and you firing these weapon systems, you automatically have these weapon systems for those black targets. So literally, we look at these law enforcement agents and all these other ones that have a psychology already of superiority, but then they have the grand equalizer, as Dr. Frances Cress Welsing called the gun. Peace and blessings be upon her. So now we will have radicalized minds looking to execute on sight. So we're all walking around with the same mentality under the grand unifier of the word. That's how powerful the word is. That you could maim somebody, you could take their life, you could do all of these things in the name of this word. You could also dehumanize, demoralize, misrepresent, whatever the case may be, all surrounding around the same word, but then also say, oh, this is a term of endearment. Or when we say it to each other, we're saying this, and then they take you all the way back to etymology and all these other justifications to use a word that you could, the next breath, take someone's life for, or don't care that they're missing, or don't care that their organs are being harvested, or whatever the case may be. No matter what happens, because it's all synonymous around this foundational word. So when Dr. Claude Anderson gave us this explanation from a commercial and an economic perspective, we have to look at the militaristic implications because they go hand in hand. So this woman on the screen, this teacher that they was talking about, and all of these other points are surrounding that subhuman dehumanization process of analysis. Oh, everybody does it, so that's supposed to be a justification, right? That's a justification for intent to harm and this visceral onslaught. You see what I'm saying? So if she says it, he says it, he says it, they all say it, but also what do they do with it? What do they do with it? You understand what I'm saying? Like the utility for it. Like, so they do this from an economic standpoint and they profit off of it, but they also do it in a militaristic standpoint and profit off of it. So they double dip with the same word. And this is the word that we choose out of all of the words that we could use to describe ourselves. Dr. Mott, you know how many times I heard a brother, I say, hey, brother, he said, I ain't your brother, N-word. You understand what I'm saying? So you say brother, sister, king, God, anything divine, it's like, nah, we on demon time. You understand what I'm saying? We on demon time, N-word. So it didn't matter what spiritual, what political, what any of these aspects in regards to that. This is the grand identifier because it's the grand unifier because it's the word that the dominant culture perpetuates and allows us as a term and throws a bunch of money at it. So I'll give you a $10 million loan to degrade yourself and debase yourself and to disrespect yourself, but you owe me 10 million plus. You see what I'm saying? So you look like you out here getting it at our expense, but you're in debt and you're in servitude. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to PFK Boom, who loans you, owns you. So we out here carrying around this debt. We're carrying around this debt of servitude with our affinity towards a word that describes us in our most heinous and dehumanized position.
No, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And I love how you just talked about, you know, if everybody says it, then it must be okay. Because that's what he said. Everybody's racist. Everybody's racist. Everybody has biases and prejudice. He's not even qualified, Brother Knowledge Born, to have this conversation. We're having a conversation about what's happening in America between, so-called black people and so-called white people, right? This dude is Sudanese, right? He's not a black person. He's not a black American, so I don't even understand why he's on the panel and why he feels qualified to speak about black people, about black Americans, about Africans in America, about however people identify, right? Some people say freemen, shout out to the freemen, but he's not qualified to even speak. So I was disgusted that he was even on the panel, but let's continue. So everybody's racist. Everybody's okay.
See, I think this Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organized. And what I mean by this is for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions. And
black supremacy. So he has white people's talking points. Running around with black supremacy. We running around with black supremacy and committing crimes. Here we go.
Then they blame the system for it.
Look at her shaking her head in agreement, though. She's like,
yeah, it's this one right here. This one. It's this.
Yeah,
one.
finally. Yes, finally. You get my flight, brother. Yeah,
right.
Come on.
Right.
Defend me. Okay.
Right.
Defend me, you monkey.
Right. Criminal. A lot of these people are criminals.
You can't defend that. Sure. Because you've been
Hold on. I went back too far. Here we go.
The reality is, it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say,
you see Mark shook his head. You saw that, Brother Nosbo. Mark went like this when he said that.
I think this Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organized. And what I mean by this is for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal.
Yeah, he's not qualified. But hold on, let me keep playing it. I'll talk.
That's the outsider again.
What ends up happening
doing this analysis.
We say, Brother Knowledge Born.
I said again, this is an outsider doing this analysis. Again, this is the outsider. He's an outsider.
Right.
They're all outsiders, right? And even the guy that's supposed to be the insider, he's not doing a good job either. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, if you're supposed to be in this culture and you're not white adjacent or want some white allegiance, because that's what you're going to salute that flag and it's going to show no matter what. So he's saying this like he's doing something noble, like he's giving this whole analysis. He has these points ready. He's like criminal. You understand what I'm saying? So criminal over here sounds direct. YN on the other end sounds indirect. It sounds like it's just tongue in cheek, Onk and OG and all this other stuff. And then, y'all YNs, we OGs, all of this, type of banter where it sounds fair seeming, like it sounds palatable, but it's damaging. You see what I'm saying? Look at the look that he has on his face while he's condemning our people. And we're like, yeah, no, this dude, blah, blah, blah. You understand what I'm saying? Like his look is similar to her look.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the visceral disregard and the blatant, I don't have a clue what I'm talking about, but I'm going to present this to show my allegiance, who I'm pledging allegiance to directly right here. So again, theater with that.
They challenge a police officer, they get into a physical altercation.
They challenge a police officer and get into a physical altercation. He just on here spreading lies and narratives, spreading false narratives. Here we go.
Things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result. When in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people.
Oh, here we go.
And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I?
Go ahead.
Whoa.
What you got? What do you get?
You said the chickens have come home in the roost. You know I had this in the chamber. I was waiting. Black on black violence.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Because you know that's the next talking point. It's always the talking point that's next. And we might find ourselves going north-south instead of east-west because it sounds like, oh, okay, we in a bad way type of situation. And it says, just really quickly, Dr. Maya,
go
on
ahead,
page 9,
go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
for a very large percentage of white Americans, young black males, sexual promiscuity and criminality are synonymous. In the dominant white American consciousness, the African male is essentially guilty, okay, for merely having the audacity of being alive. This is what Dr. Amos Wilson says, okay? So the dominant culture sees your existence, black man, woman, and child, as a threat and a sin against God, basically for being alive. You see what I'm saying? There's a very pervasive feeling among many white Americans that their world would be much more secure if all young black males were imprisoned, solitarily confined to their ghettos, or kept under constant surveillance. It is no quirky coincidence that such perceptions, feelings, and attitudes towards African American males occur mostly prevalently within the context of white American dominance. Ultimately, criminality of the black male, regardless of its nature, true or reality, resides in any act or attitude on the part of black males which appears to white Americans to defy white American authority, control, or dominance. It is white America which defines criminality and writes the criminal justice codes. It writes these codes not in the interest of justice as defined by its own moral code, but in the interest of maintaining, justifying, and enforcing its continued dominance of the African American community. So look at the typecast, because this is the fail-safe. Black on black violence. You know, black people, they go crazy about, when it happens, when it's a cop or somebody else that's non-black, but we don't have nothing to say when it's our own and blah, blah, blah. This entire volume is dedicated to it. Rest in peace to our newly ancestor, Dr. Jawanza Kinjufu, countering the conspiracy to destroy black boys. Like, how many books do you have to write, to read? How much time of your life do you have to give? And people are still asking in 2025, well, Brother Knowledge Born, well, Dr. Mahat, what are the solutions? What are we supposed to be doing? Like, all of these books are written and they've been in circulation and publication for decades. We've been advocating these things for decades. For decades. So hands-on intervention, not just from a place where it's just scholastic or academic. No, literally face-to-face group contact, community engagement. So, they got the term boots on the ground. Boots on the ground militaristically means a whole nother thing. So if they don't understand the dynamics of this, you were talking about this power dynamic. It's a dance. It's a back and forth of power.
That's right.
So they'll have you, make you appear as if you have power or you are powerful, but it's an illusion of inclusion. It's an illusion. So when he brought up Freddie Gray and then he brought up George Floyd, these are all pain points. These are all trigger points to have you respond emotionally and not critically.
Absolutely.
So if you respond emotionally and not analytically, if you can't go pick up this book, and I just read a paragraph out of that book, a paragraph. And if it didn't encompass the entire discussion that we're having in regards to how we see ourselves versus how the world see us or the dominant culture, because the white view of us is the world's view of us, because they do it through cinematic means, they do it through entertainment means, and they do it through journalistic means. So they paint us subhuman, savages, all these words we ascribe to ourselves as badges of honor for the world to come rob and destroy. So these world nations are coming in militaristically, and they're setting up businesses in the neighborhood as early warning detection devices, spy networks, and all kinds of things. So when it's time to move on us, they move on us. So, you know, Latasha Harlan and that Korean lady, you understand what I'm saying? Whether we look at that as an isolated incident or any of the other incidents, they're there and they're weaponized. So when I use militaristically, I don't want folks to get disillusioned. Like Poppy at the corner store, Poppy got an army with him that moves by his command. You don't believe me? Run the foul to him. The Korean nail store, the hair store. You did a whole breakdown on it, Dr. Mott. You know, when the brother went over there and busted up the store, they were still our folks going back into the store. You see what I'm saying? At their defense, right? At the defense of black women in the store. The next day, the windows busted out. They still in there getting their toes and the nails done. You understand what I'm saying?
I was hurt. I was hurt when that was going on.
Sort of, what's that word? Stockholm syndrome that we have with white America and everybody else that comes into this space and sets up shop. That undying, unwavering allegiance, that pledge of allegiance that's there, that exists. It does not exist internally, it exists externally. And you can't have an allegiance to everyone else and have an allegiance to yourself.
Absolutely, brother.
An undying allegiance to everyone else at the expense of yourself.
Ashe.
Right? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right, but
okay, so I wanted him to finish that up. I want to move to the other point. Another point. He goes on to say, he says, black people, we don't want to live around each other. He said we don't want to live around black folks. That's why I said that he is not qualified to be on this panel, because that's far from the truth. But here we go.
Now, and my argument to respond to that is this: political correctness, liberalism, and making sure that we are politically correct and don't use certain words could offend people is precisely why we're in the situation that we're in. For decades, we've had to literally tiptoe around saying certain things around certain people, while the other group of people has been able to have impunity and be able to be as racist as they want to be, as violent as they want to be, without any type of...
And he's saying we had to tiptoe. Who's the we? He's from Sudan, right? Who the hell is the we? Hold on.
Consequence. If you call it out, you're labeled a racist. The reality is this: black people don't want to live around black people. I don't want to live around a bunch of black people. I moved to neighborhoods where it's majority white.
So he considered himself black, right? He's not. I mean, when we say black, you know, he's not. Black people don't want to live around black people. I don't want to live around. Myron, speak for yourself. We don't even.
His nose is telling on his. His nose is telling on him.
Right, we don't. Yeah, his nose is telling him exactly. We don't even claim him as black. But he said right there, said black people don't want to live around other black people. That's not true. Hold on, keep going. Let's keep going.
Because I know I'm safe. Now, this uncomfortable reality that no one wants to say, so I'll say it for them. Black people commit a lot of crimes. A majority of the violent crime committed in the United States is committed by a small percentage of people, and they tend to be black men. Look.
See, and you were just talking about this when you read black on black crime. I checked the FBI files on crime probably like last year. And if you go through the files, it's not white men commit most of the crime in America, right? Like it's there. Most of the rapes, most of the murders, it's white men. It's created by white men. So I don't know where Myron is getting his stats from. And as far as black people not wanting to live around other black people, that's not true. Black people are like any other group of people, right? You want to live in a decent neighborhood. By decent, I mean one that has, preferably no crime. But is that ideal? Maybe in some areas in America. But you want to be around, you want to live in an area that's crime free, where your children can go outside and play. You don't want it to be impoverished. You want to have access to certain amenities, certain resources in your community. So it's not that Black people don't want to live around other Black people, or I would even argue the opposite, that most ethnicities like to live in the same community with each other, right? You want to live around people who share your culture, right? You share the same culture, the same. You have a shared history, a shared culture, a shared psychology, a shared reality, a shared worldview, right? Like, so I would argue the opposite, that we do. It's just that you want to live in communities that are decent communities, but to say that Black people don't want to live around Black people, I think that's far from the truth. Let's continue to see what he has to say.
The reality is the reality. People don't want to say it, but the political correctness and being nice and not wanting to tell the truth is precisely this problem. And the reason why you're seeing all the support for Metcalf and Shiloh, etc., is because white people have not been able to step up and say what they want to say for a very long time because of what I.
Well, that's not true. No, you see white people stepping up, or in supporting Metcalf and supporting Shiloh because they share their same mentality, right? That's what it is. Is one of them that is tribalism, and it's also they have a shared mentality. That's not, so they didn't see anything wrong with her calling that Black child the N-word. They didn't see anything wrong with Metcalf allegedly bullying Carmelo, or asking him to leave. They had the same mentality. So he's saying white America's tired of it and that's why they're stepping up. No, what you're seeing is that there are people who actually share the same mentality as Shiloh Hendricks and Metcalf. That's what you see.
I said before, systemic, organized, where they don't take accountability for their
All right,
decisions.
let me bring in Ricky.
So then he brings in Brother Knowledge Born, one of the co-founders or co-owners of Gifts and Go, and that's the platform that's hosting the campaigns of Carmelo Anthony and also the woman Shiloh Hendricks. And so he brings him on and he really exposes the hypocrisy, right? And I'll get to that in a few, but I do want to continue with Myron. Myron says, I think it may have been the white woman. She says racism is a preference. And so I just had to play that one. This is a quick clip. She defines racism as a preference. And I said, God damn it. I said, she is just stupid. She doesn't know what the hell racism is. It's not a preference. It's not a prejudice. It's not prejudice. It's not a preference. It's not bias. It's not bigotry. It's deeper than that. So give thanks to Dr. Amos Wilson and people like Dr. Claude Anderson. But here we go.
That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around Black people.
Racism is just having a preference. Let's keep going.
Prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by Black people. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave and he gets stabbed in the heart.
That's not what happened. You see what she did? You see what she said, Brother Knowledge Born? Are we living in a country, where, he just asked the guy to move and he stabbed him in the heart? That's not what happened. She just making stuff up. I just wish, Brother Knowledge Born, I was on this panel. I hope that Piers Morgan calls me one day and put me on the panel with these people. We need to do a do-over. We need to have a do-over.
Prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's.
She's a Who? Brother Knowledge Born. This woman sat on the panel.
Seeing someone as less human.
Yeah.
Less human.
She said she's a Christian.
Next. Right. Yeah.
but then admitted that she was also a racist. She admitted that during this interview. She's like, yeah, I'm a racist. She's a staunch racist. And then she's saying that a real racist sees you as subhuman, and she claims to be a racist. So that means that she views Black people as subhuman. Then she turned around and said, I'm a Christian. But guess what? I'm not surprised. I'm thinking right now, Brother Knowledge Born, of our beloved ancestor, Frederick Douglass, in his book, Narrative of a Slave, where he talked about his experiences being enslaved. And he said that Christian slave masters were the worst ones. He said they would hoop and holler and thank God on Sunday and would be beating the hell out of them, the following day. He said they were actually the most harsh of the slave masters. They were the Christians. We can't forget, Brother Knowledge Born, that remember, Christianity, there were people that, Christianity in the Bible, they do talk about slavery. Brother Ankh talks about that a whole lot. Is passages in there, obey your slave master and things of that nature. We got to remember, there was a ship that brought our ancestors over here. Some of our ancestors were brought over here on a ship named Jesus. So we got to remember, people who were involved in the transatlantic human trafficking, or I really would say transatlantic child trafficking network, that there was Christians involved in that, and so I'm not surprised. I mean, we got to remember that the KKK claimed that they were a Christian organization, right? So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all that this woman claimed to be, a Christian.
Created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human, but that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say, I don't like what happens to be coming out of this community or that community. How is that a bad thing? How is that not just a preference?
Because you've literally made black people sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them. You want to use the N word in relation to them, a word that causes that community unbelievable offense.
My fault? Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior, if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid
bad behavior,
that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
That's mind-boggling to me for multiple reasons. I mean, we're talking about bad behavior. We've never lynched you, we've never enslaved you, we've never done any of the deep-seated structural forms of injustice to white people that white people have done.
Exactly. I mean, you get what I'm saying? Like, exactly.
Look at how uncomfortable Myron is while he's speaking. Look how uncomfortable. Like he wants to cut him off in mid-sentence and refute all of these claims. Like, this nonverbal communication is very heavy.
Right.
So even she's getting confronted with these little bit of things, right? Seeing all of their nonverbal responses is important.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So I just wanted to point that out because those are things that we have to chart. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I was telling a lie to my mama, it wasn't because of what I said. It was how I presented myself and what I said. That's how she knew when I was lying. Because she know when I tell the truth. If I'm dead serious about the truth or whatever happened, it was one thing. But if I was up there freestyling, trying to make something up off the top of my head in the moment, everything betrayed me. My body language and my mouth. You understand? So it's like, all right. So however it goes. So this confronting she didn't have all this time to talk. He had all of these, this time now when he's speaking, they're very unnerved about him even speaking, and then what he's speaking about. So like I said, he's tongue-in-cheek about it. Like, he's kind of being passive. He's not even being aggressive in the way that he's presenting it. He's trying to appear like he's calm and he's just flabbergasted about everything that he heard. But it's an actor. It's lights, camera, action.
No, it is. It is. I'm with you. I'm with you. And so I got like 2 more clips, but here we go. Oh, he says Byron's getting ready to say that black people, that we practice racism. So hold on, let me put this back here. He said we practice racism.
No, actually, it is the same thing. Because here's the problem with black people.
No, it's not.
Hold on, let me finish this. Black people practice the very racism they cry about. You guys can gather together and say,
you guys.
Yep. You guys.
You guys. Y'all better keep that. Y'all better remember that forever. You understand?
That's right.
I don't care how somebody appears, they will pledge allegiance to their flag. Okay? He said, you guys. You people,
he sure did. And then he said
N-words.
And he said, we practice the same racism that we complain about. We don't have the power or the resource. Well, power is generated from what? Wealth and resources. We don't have the power to practice racism. So that's why I say he's not even qualified to have this discussion. But let me rewind it back. I'm gonna let him talk. Hold on. Here we go.
Hold on, let me finish this. Black people practice the very racism they cry about. You guys can gather together and say Black Lives Matter, Black Power, but if white people get together and say white power and gather together, they're considered white supremacists and they get banned off every single platform. Why is that Jared Taylor and Nick Fuentes are banned off every platform for practicing white nationalism, but Black people are allowed to stand every single platform getting interviews on a Breakfast Club? Explain that to me. There's a two-tier situation here where Black people are able to benefit off of being racist while whites are not. And what we're dealing with right now in America is literally a backlash to this Black supremacy has been able to run around unchecked for a long time, and no one has the balls to call it out. Here's the other thing I want to say. Everyone's flipping out over Shiloh Hendricks is saying the N-word.
Hey, can I respond to the point you just made, though?
No, hold on. Nobody flipped out like this when the United States was getting destroyed in 2020 because of Black protesters destroying every liberal city in America. So I don't want to hear it about, she made $100,000 because she said the N-word. Who cares? They destroyed billions of dollars of structure because someone got killed who was a criminal. That's the problem in America. You guys get a privilege that no one else gets to enjoy. You could be racist.
Okay.
And
all right, I have to hang on. I'm going to hold it.
Yeah. So Myron just said a bunch of BS. He just said a whole bunch of BS. We can't. Black people have never in the history of America practiced the same racism that white people have practiced against us. It's never happened. He made that whole thing up. And then when he said we ran around and destroyed all the liberal cities, that's not true. We didn't run around and destroy a whole bunch of liberal cities. And a matter of fact, Brother Knowledge Born, I got word from brothers and sisters that had boots on the ground that said it was actually white people who showed up at these Black Lives Matter protests. Yes. And was out there destroying stuff. They said it really they said it wasn't the brothers and sisters. They said it was actually white people, like young white folks who showed up at these protests, and they were the ones destroying cop cars and fighting the police and breaking in stores. They said it wasn't the Black people. So again, Myron is not qualified to have this conversation. Myron is not familiar, just like this chick right here. They're in the same boat. They're not qualified to have this conversation. They're very ignorant of U.S. history. They're very ignorant of Black people, Black history, Black culture, and they are unqualified to have this discussion. I mean, that's all I have to say about this. Brother Knowledge Born, you go ahead. You close us out.
The insurrection spaces that they were charting, and they aren't new in America. Like you can have a baseball game go defunct, then when those white teenagers are out there destroying things after a football game, a baseball game, whatever the case may be, there's no media attention to call them. A rock and roll concert can lead to a riot or some sort of stampede. You understand what I'm saying? Like the sensationalism is there when they show it, because he has to show this. He's looking at the effect and glossing over the cause. You see what I'm saying? Like, since the resurgence of the Klan in 1915 with D.W. Griffith's movie Birth of a Nation, the recruitment up 200%. They condemned Black America, Black men, Black women, and Black children, and sought to, for the next 15 years, position themselves to be able to subversively destroy Black people, Black families, Black organizations, Black movements from the inside out, and then use that catalyst for the next 100 years. That's a 100-year war in America from 1920 to 2020. So it's interesting that he says 2020 after all of these things that happened in between. The riots of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, all the way to 2020. And he doesn't point out that the world at the death of George Floyd, that he called a criminal, did the same thing. The entire planet was on fire, not just these quote unquote liberal cities. You could go in Germany, you can go in France, you could go in Africa, you can go in all of these places where all of these insurrections were taking place.
That's true.
At the same time. So to relegate it again, back to Bob Amos Wilson, peace and blessings be upon him. This is the goal, the aim, the objective, to typecast this as a Black American in general and a Black male in specific problem. So what we got out of all of our efforts and consciousness, all of our time in the conscious community was black identity extremists. No white militia group, white nationalist group, Aryan, skinhead, Nazi, none of those groups
Mm.
have been targeted and locked up uh, on federal charges for any of the atrocities that they are doing. They're still doing them right now. That whole situation in Ohio with those Nazi militia groups going through Ohio, and then they showed the black folks. You understand what I'm saying? Like they live in that sort of occupation. These are private citizens. These aren't law enforcement agencies. So in addition to the law enforcement agencies, in addition to the emergency service organizations, all of them are weaponized against black people. So if the police don't get you, the hospital got you. Don't forget the fire. What was the function of the fire department? Why did they come to this place? They're supposed to be emergency responders, and they responded to us with a visceral threat. They found a way to use a water hose as a weapon.
Yeah, they sure did.
So every single agency that they show in America, quote unquote, for the quote unquote most law-abiding, most America defending, every skirmish, every world war, everything that happened in American history, black people were there. Black people were in those ranks, in those uniforms, serving in places where they didn't trust them with a gun. They had them with a shovel in war.
Mm.
In bondage. You're in bondage in America. The British say, if you help us, we'll free you. We're fighting here on both sides of the battlefield against each other.
Mm.
So we have to really understand this whole dynamic that they come with these talking points that are preset, that's out there, where they're showing their allegiance. They have an allegiance to continue on this white family dynamic. So white supremacy, and they talk about, these things. Dr. Bobby Eugene Wright was very clear with that. He was like, it ain't no white supremacy. He said it's black folks against white folks, and that's it. The families create systems, and that's a system dynamic that functions optimally with us on the bottom and them on the top, no matter where we see in the world. Even in the Sudan, where he's from, the Sudanese people are as dark as us and darker. And they're not. So this little thing transplant that's up there of mixed ethnicity represents the dominating power structure of the Sudan. You see what I'm saying? So the Arab and some of these other folks that are over there that are there pillaging and taking from the darker people, no matter where that dynamic exists. Peace and blessings to Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
And travel, you'll see it. You see what I'm saying? You've been to Kemet, you see it. You've been to all of these places, you'll see it. So them pale Arabs over there that's claiming that they're Egyptian versus the Nubians that's over there, there's a whole dynamic where this happens everywhere. So if we looked at Palestine versus these Israelis, you see these dark Palestinians that's over there. That's not the people that they showing on the news. They show them infighting in this influx between their own power dynamic. But those black Palestinians are over there. So everybody's looking for solidarity and exploitation from us. So we have to truly have a comprehensive understanding of who we are and where our allegiance truly lies.
No, I agree 1,000% with you. I agree 1,000% with you. And then Brother Knowledge Born, later on in the interview, he brought on the guy from, and I didn't put my phone up, Gifts and Go. And he exposed the hypocrisy. So they present as a Christian campaign, like a Christian platform. And he was saying to him, one of the owners, he said, well, if you're a Christian platform, then why would you allow a woman to become a millionaire? Why would you reward a woman? Thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for calling a child, a black child, the N-word. And the guy was like, well, it's not us. People are donating. It's not our money. We're not donating. He was like, yeah, but you're giving her the platform, right? And he said, but yet you present and you call yourself a Christian platform. He said, but then on the flip side, if someone wanted to put up a campaign, ran a campaign to get an abortion, you wouldn't allow that. But you would allow someone to make money off of killing a black child. So he was trying to get the owner to admit that there's some hypocrisy there. But instead of the owner saying, yeah, that's hypocrisy, the owner tried to dance his way out of it. Oh, well, it's not us, and it's different, and it's this and it's that, And so, basically what Piers Morgan was saying to him is that you all are benefiting from the racism. You're benefiting from racism. You're benefiting from somebody that's on the receiving end of racism, allegedly, and then someone who is racist, basically. And I would say she's not racist. I would just say she's a bigot, but anyway, but that's what he was trying to get the owner to see. But anyway, Brother Knowledge Born, I want to salute you, Warrior, for taking time out of your schedule to come on here and help me review this wild debate on race and racism and white victimhood. And I want to shout out to my audience family. I see a lot of you came on in, and this was an impromptu live, but I appreciate you all coming in and listening to my thoughts and allowing me access to your mind and your time. And so I do appreciate you. Before you get out of here, family, do me a favor, thumb up this show, thumb up this discussion. I hate calling it a show, but thumb up this discussion, thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. And also, family, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you are notified. Okay. And I did hear that YouTube is unsubscribing folks from my platform. So make sure that you, even if you've previously subscribe, to make sure that you go back and you subscribe again. All right. And hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified. Also, I see my IG families in the building. Peace and love to the family who is watching on IG. Family that's on IG, make sure that you head on over to YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell. And I also want to say this before I get out of here. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers under the sound of my voice, to the fellas that's in the building. Please hug your mom and let your mother know that Dr. Ma'at wishes her a happy Mother's Day. And I hope that all of you enjoy tomorrow. Peace and Black excellence.